Each name signifies a nature of Allah the Almighty which no one shares or is compared to Allah in it.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back. Now, the Prophet ﷺ heard about the feud that was about to take place between the Aus and the Khazraj. And he came to them just about they were to fight. And he said, "Aren't you afraid of Allah? I'm amongst you. I'm with you. And Allah Azza wa Jal has saved you from hellfire. And you want to go back again?" So the minute they saw the Prophet ﷺ and they heard what he said, they embraced each other again and dropped their swords. And Banu Qaynuqa and the Jews knew that they failed again. And throughout the time, they used to mock about Muslims. Whenever Muslims passed through or by their souks, they used to talk and laugh and mock of them and slander them and tease them. And this is not what the Prophet ﷺ agreed with them to do. He agreed with them that they should remain in their houses, in their trade, not to assault or to support those who are assaulting Islam. Yet they were not complying. So many times the Prophet ﷺ went to them and gathered their elderly, and he advised them, "This is not the way you should behave." They would not comply. They would say to him, in his face, "Muhammad, do you think that we are like those you fought in Badr, of the people of Quraysh? They're old people, they're bold people. They don't have not bold in the sense that they're brave. They have no hair on their head. They're so old and clumsy.
They don't have the skills of fighting.
They're not like us. We are men of war." And they were saying the truth. They were men of war. They were blacksmith, and they were goldsmith. They worked in jewelry and preparing weaponry, making pots and so on. So they had the finance, they had the ability to make the weaponry, and they had the weapons themselves. And they were composed of 700 extremely well-trained fighters, strong, well-armed. So they kept on facing the Prophet ﷺ and saying to him, and challenging him that there's nothing you can do about that. We're not like the people of Quraysh. We're way different than them. And in one incident, and this provoked the war against Bani Qaynuqa, they never honored the treaties with the Prophet ﷺ. In one incident, one woman, Muslim woman, went to buy something from their market. And she had her veil. She covered her face. So the Jew insisted that she unveils herself. He wanted to see her face. And she would not do that. As she was sitting and looking at the merchandise and here and there, one of them came from behind her and tied a dress to the back of her head without her noticing and feeling that. So the minute she stood up, it was revealing to the people watching that her back was naked, was exposed. And they started laughing and enjoying what they're seeing. So she cried out. And one Muslim brother was there, and he could not tolerate this. So he went to the Jew who did this, and he killed him. So all the Jews came back and killed that Muslim. And as we can see, there is the photo of the location of the map and where Banu Qaynuqa used to be, their houses and their fortresses, because the Jews had fortresses like and compounds. The minute they killed the Muslim brother, then this meant that the treaties were all broken. The Prophet ﷺ came to them and he surrounded their fortresses and their village for 15 days. Subhanallah, Allah the Almighty had thrown the terror in their hearts. With all their soldiers and armor, they could not fight the Muslims.
No one of them came out to fight the Muslims?
No, they were so scared. They were terrified. They could not do this. And why was that? First, they knew they were wrong. Second, Allah Azza wa Jal always support the Muslims. Because when you are at the side of Allah, no one can beat you. No one can defeat you. But you have to be 100%, well actually you have to be 110% at the side of Allah, the Almighty. So for 15 days, the village of Banu Qaynuqa' was besieged. The Prophet ﷺ was surrounding it. After 15 days, they dropped their arms and said, we will accept the judgment of the Prophet ﷺ. Khalas, we surrender. And they came out.
And you said they were strong and they had sword and everything.
It was all in vain.
Yeah.
All of their strength was in vain. They could not utilize it. They could not use it because they were petrified.
Yeah.
They had two allies of theirs, Ubadah ibn Samit, who was a Muslim, and Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul, who was a pretending Muslim. He was a hypocrite. Ubadah ibn Samit, once they did what they've done, they've declared that he is not an ally of them anymore. They are the enemies of Allah. Abdullah ibn Ubay did not do this because he was afraid that someday he may need their armor and their strong men to protect him. So when they accepted the ruling of the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ordered them to go to exile. And he kept their wealth and property. So they can only go with the kids, with their wives. And they, as we are told, went to an area called Udhru'at or Udhri'at in the Sham area. The stories say that not 1 year passed before they were all died. They were all dead, naturally. Not 12 months passed over them.
Because of a disease or something? Or
we are not told. They were told that they moved to this area of Asham and they died before the year was completed. Now, this 1 down, 2 to go from the Jews. Because we had 3 tribes of the Jews, Banu Qaynuqa', Banu Qurayza, and Banu Al-Nadir. Now, not all the Jews were alike. There was a very famous Jew scholar. Do you know the name of him? Abdullah ibn Salam. He was among the most prominent Jews at the time when the Prophet ﷺ came to Medina. So, but he was a fair person. He was an objective person. When the Prophet came ﷺ, he said to himself that I've read the books of the Torah and the Gospel. And of course the Jews only believe in the Torah, the Old Testament. They don't believe in the New Testament because they don't believe in Jesus Christ to be a prophet or a messenger. So he said that I would like to listen to what this man has to say. And he tells us that the minute I saw the Prophet ﷺ, I recognized that his face is not a face of a liar. And this is something, it's a gut feeling, you know. When you talk to someone, this guy he's bluffing, he's saying lies, or he's saying the truth.
Yeah, the minute can tell by his eyes, his talk, and his face, you can tell by
the Prophet ﷺ is a prophet, so you cannot deny this. The minute you see him, you recognize him. So he said, I immediately knew that he was not a liar. And I heard him say, O people, pray while the people are asleep. Feed the hungry. Connect your kinship. And spread peace. And Allah Azza wa Jal will make you enter paradise. So these 3 things you will enter paradise in peace. Immediately, he went to the Prophet ﷺ, asked him a few questions, and he embraced Islam. Though he was a scholar of the Jews, and among their prominent clergymen, when he embraced Islam, he told the Prophet ﷺ, now that you know that I'm a Muslim, I'd like to request from you to call all the leaders of the Jews and their scholars and let me stay behind the curtain and ask them about me, because the Jews are people of deception and lies. They never say the truth. So ask them before they know that I embraced Islam. So the Prophet ﷺ requested their presence. They came and he asked them, what do you think of Abdullah ibn Salam? So they said, Abdullah ibn Salam, he is our finest scholar and the son of one of our finest scholars. He is the best among us and he is the elite of our people. So he told them, and what would you say if he embraces Islam? So, no way, come on, say something else. He would never ever embrace Islam. So Abdullah comes out of the from behind the curtain and says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. He embraces Islam and says the word that declares his becoming a Muslim, that there is no God but Allah, and that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is his servant and his messenger. And immediately they said, Abdullah ibn Salam, he is the worst among us. He is nothing. He is an ignorant person. And then Abdullah looks at the Prophet and says, O Prophet of Allah, now you recognize what I've said about the Jews? This is a sample of the people who are objective, who are not biased. Whenever, and there are a lot of the non-Muslims are like this. All what you need is for you to go and approach them. Whenever a person is objective and unbiased, he would accept Islam. Unfortunately, Satan always stands as a barrier. They like Islam. They would like to come a step forward to ask about Islam, and then he tells them, no, 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 no. You're better off not to. But if they come with an open heart and mind, sit with me, let's talk about it. Ask me any question you want. Fire at me any doubts you have against Islam. I guarantee you, if you have an objective mind and a free spirit, that you will accept Islam immediately. This is a challenge that we give to all non-Muslims. And if they do comply, and if they take the challenge, they will revert to Islam without being able to reject it. But if they're biased, if they're not objective, and if they have different agendas, they will not accept Islam. I'm afraid that this is all the time we have for today's program. Until we meet next time, fi amanillah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Mm-hmm.